I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good, doing
Good.
good. Thank you so much. I love the art in the background.
Oh, yeah, it was sweet blackberry stuff.
Oh wow, wow. Yep. We have a quite a few questions on Sweet Blackberry within the
Yeah,
Q&A. Yes, we do.
great.
So I will start off with the introduction. So joining us today on behalf of SCJ, our educational initiative, and Thornwood High School is a special, special young lady whom captured the hearts of America playing the role of Hilary Banks on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The legendary actress has gone on to TV produce, TV direct. She's an iconic author and is the CEO, founder of Sweet Blackberry, non for profit dedicated to bringing little known stories of African American achievements to life. Please give a huge, warm South Side of Chicago welcome, Thornwood High School welcome to legendary actress, humanitarian, in the real life version of Wonder Woman, the Karyn Parsons.
Hi. Thank you. Wow, I need to record that and keep that. My my intro.
Well, with your illustrious career, it makes the introductions that much easier. So thank you so much for everything you've meant to us and our
Thank you.
performing arts community.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
I will start off with I will start off with the first question. Since you have such a huge performing arts, um, like it's like you're considered a cult hero within the performing arts community, especially with young girls and young ladies throughout the city of Chicago. Have you ever been to Chicago?
Yes. Yes, I've been to Chicago. Looking forward to getting back there. Yeah, I was there, I think a couple times last year. I hadn't been for a few years before, but I've been to Chicago a
Quite a
bit.
few times.
Yeah,
Okay.
not enough to say I know my way around, but enough to say if I could stumble down some streets and say I've been here before, I know this, I know where to go. That could happen. That could happen.
Oh, definitely.
I love
And
Chicago.
and students on the call currently, please put your questions in the chat, and then I'll either read your questions live on the chat or I'll pass the microphone to you live. So with that said, before I go into the chat, I was going to say, what has been the toughest part navigating through the current COVID-19 pandemic? Everybody's gone through it over the last 11 months. It's hard to believe we're almost at a full year where, for the
Yeah,
most part, everything has been shut down. Things are looking a little bit promising for
right.
the summer and fall, but as of right now, we're still kind of, you know,
You know,
going
careful.
through it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been, like for everybody, it's been a challenge. I have been fortunate enough to have remained, knock on wood, healthy, as has my family, for the most part. I mean, I have extended family members who have um, suffered and recovered, and but it's, I think, aside from the actual immediate impact of the virus itself, just our lifestyle change in terms of that, it's been really rough. I have two teenagers, and my daughter, graduated from school this year. She graduated early, but she had no prom, no
Yeah.
form. The graduation they had was online, and it was very bizarre. And but she kind of felt like, also she felt like, why not just go ahead? If I can try to get out, do it early, because we're not going to have any of this regular stuff. I'm not seeing my friends. I don't like online school. So let me just get through as fast as I can. And it's been very challenging, and watching them, it's been challenging. My 13-year-old son has his first girlfriend, and that's very strange for, because he has a girlfriend, and he's happy to call her his girlfriend, but he can't see her. It's a very,
Oh,
it's a really strange It's strange. It's hard for them. As far as for me, yeah, my husband in the beginning, I'll admit, I was like, I'm a little bit of a hermit. I have a hermit side. So in the beginning, I was happy doing my jigsaw puzzles and kind of trying I'm spending a lot of time with family and baking and all that and getting my garden going. I was really happy with that in the beginning, but then started to hit me really hard, the feeling of isolation. And I think especially when I was back in New York, because we were out of town in the country area for a lot of the lockdown.
Oh,
And
wow.
when you're in nature and it's summer, it's one thing, but when it's winter and you're in the big city that is shut down, that's a very different, stark contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And between that feeling of isolation and, quite honestly, and I just read an article about this, or started an article on this, I have to finish it, about writers having writer's block during this time.
Yeah.
Because, you feel like, oh, okay, I have all this time. I'm going to sit down. I'm just going to focus on my work. And then you sit there and I've seen writers that are so prolific say, I always used to laugh at people that said they had writer's block, but I'm experiencing it for the first time. So I think it's been difficult in that regard too. It's made it hard to focus on work.
Mm-hmm. What is it like for you personally, being considered such a role model, and you're considered a hero and an idol, definitely in Chicago here, but throughout, throughout the country, that does it, over the years, over the past couple of decades, what does does that carry extra weight on your shoulders? How does that feel personally for you?
I haven't really had to feel the weight of it. I feel incredibly honored to hold that place for people. The fact that I was part of something that reached so many people, so many generations, it seems, because I meet people for years. I've been meeting people who say it's my favorite show, and now it's my kid's favorite show, and then 10 years go by, someone else says the same thing, and then 10 more years go by and somebody says it, so it's this show, like, this gift that keeps giving, and it's beautiful. But I think I dismissed it for a long time. I just kind of, oh, that's really sweet, oh, that's really nice, and because it's hard to let something like that land.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot. Yeah. And it does bear some responsibility, but more than anything, it's just for me, it's an incredible honor. And it's hard. It was very hard for me for a long time to place myself in the middle of that, to sit still and let that hit me. And because I have people and shows and that are that for me. But for me to be that, I don't find it so much of there's no burden at all. Yeah. It's only good.
How often do you still stay in contact with Alfonso Ribeiro, Tatiana Ali, and Tatiana Ali and Will Smith?
Who are you talking about? Who are those people? As often as I can. It's hard. I live none of the cast lives in New York. So when I was in Southern California, that was easier for a while. There was a period of time where Tatiana, Alfonso, James Avery, myself, all lived there, and Joseph Marcel would come and stay in James's guest house, when it was pilot season or whatever. Yeah. And so I got a chance, and we often had, barbecues and stuff at our house. So we had people coming over. So you get to see people a lot. But now Tatiana moved, I moved, Daphne lives, we're all over the place. Daphne and I see each other a lot at Comic-Cons when the pandemic's not happening. I've been able to see Ross like that. Ross, who played little Nicky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see Alfonso whenever I go to LA. I'm able to connect with him, and vice versa. When he comes to New York, sometimes we're able to coordinate that. And Tatiana and I, we are very much in contact. We'll text, we'll talk. I've gone and visited her, and we try to see each other. Same with Joe, if Joseph Marcel's in town. Yeah. And Will, I don't get to see, I get to see him every couple of years now or something, if I'm lucky. if I'm lucky, because he's really busy, hard to coordinate with, and I'm not in LA. When I was in
Yeah.
LA, he wasn't showing up for the barbecues, but I could at least I could say, okay, let's get together, then I'll go over to his place and hang out, and catch up. But it's harder when you're all spread out.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just thinking about the reunion docu that came out a couple of months ago around the holidays. It still brings tears to my eyes.
Oh, that's sweet. It definitely, you saw it, brought it to all of ours, boy. I think a lot of us have still we've kept in contact. We see each other, we talk to each other. If it's a wedding or a funeral, we see each other all together. But or a Fresh Prince reunion, we've had that bring us together a couple times. But in general, we don't get together, all of us. I still think I know I entered into it feeling like, they want to try to get us on camera and get everybody all excited, but we see each other. And so they put us in different hotels, so we couldn't, and plus it's COVID, so we weren't allowed to socialize or see each other. They wanted to capture it.
Yeah.
And what really surprised me is that when we did come together, it was so emotional. It was so emotional. It had us on the set, for one thing. I mean, what a dirty trick that was, is to rebuild the set and have us show up on that.
Yeah,
that was wild. And then think, if we had to have makeup and hair done and wardrobe, and then meet on the set. So it felt very much like the old days. We were all like getting all, it wasn't like we just sauntered onto there from the street. We literally had to get fixed up the way we used to gather together on our set, and all of us. It was very emotional. And of course the Janet, the first Aunt Viv stuff, was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And
it
still love the reunion on HBO Max. You and Will, and so you and Will are kind of best friends in the documentary. So, by the way, name's Jermaine, and I love your show, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Thank you. Thank you.
What was it like to work with the legendary, the late great James Avery, who to this very day, is absolutely missed?
Oh, I mean, I was lucky, I was just incredibly fortunate. I didn't just get to know him or work with him. This was somebody he was family to me. And I think we talked about this in the documentary. He used to call me daughter. He didn't call me Karyn. He called me daughter, I'm talking about during the show, after the show. That's how he addressed me. And he took it very seriously. My husband will be the first one to tell you, he took his role very seriously. But he was such a big, warm, generous person. He looked at you and he saw things in you often that you didn't see in yourself. And in terms of, you should play this part. You should check this out. You should, he wanted me to play Lady Macbeth really badly. And he didn't let that one go. But it was interesting because it made me have to look at the play and see what he saw, that he thought this is something that I could do and that would do something for me. And there was a part for Tatiana that he was really, really somebody he thinks that she should play, and he's right. And he really pushed her, and he'd look at you and he'd say, you know what? And he'd get excited to share with you what he saw as possibilities for you beyond what you saw for yourself. He was just generous that way. He didn't have to do any of that. It was just what his spirit was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Before I ask the next question, I also want to give a shout out to some of our guests, Professor Griffith at the Betty Shabazz International Charter School. And then we have Professor Franklin in the house from William W. Carter School of Excellence. And Mr. Michael Page, a longtime fan of Karyn Parsons. He is a CPS network administrator. Mr. Page in the house.
Mr. Coleman, we're trying to bring the babies on. I have first graders, so we're trying to bring them on. So if they come on, they're so excited, and we're trying to get them on now.
Oh yeah, I'll be on the lookout once I see them.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we'll take care of you, Professor Griffith, for sure. Yeah. So I'll be on the lookout.
Okay.
Yep. Do you know how many ladies you auditioned against for the role of Hilary Banks?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I auditioned so many times, through so many stages. I auditioned for the casting director's assistant. And then after I got through that, I got to the casting director. And then after I got to that, I got to see, I think some writers, then executive producers, and then Quincy Jones, and then I think it was the studio, and then the network. And I only saw, I'm sure I saw girls at all of the auditions. I only really remember the girl that it came down to, the two of us, for the part on the day of the network audition, because of course I was completely intimidated, seeing her there, and I knew her from other work she had done, and she's so beautiful and sweet, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I should have worn something like that. You're looking at everything and thinking, you're just picking yourself apart. It's hard when you see. Yeah, I mean, that's the direct competition, right? It was coming down to just the two of us. And so it felt very personal and very threatening. But she was lovely. Everybody's so happy for everybody in those situations. Most of the time, there are people who are different, but for the most part, people are very, really supportive and excited for each other. I'll never forget Casey Lemons, who's now a director. She directed Harriet, and she's doing all, Eve's Bayou, right? She's done all kinds of stuff. And Casey used to be an actress. She was in Silence of the Lambs and lots of things. And I remember the two of us, back when I first started, she had been doing it for a while, and the two of us auditioned together for something, and it came down to the two of us. It was part, which, by the way, neither one of us ended up getting, even though it was supposed to be the last round and it was between the two of us. They just kind of wiped the slate clean and brought in someone else later. But at first it was down to the two of us. And afterward, after we tested for the part, I was such a nervous wreck, and I gave her a ride someplace, or she gave me a ride. I forgot which. I think I gave her a ride. And I kept talking about it, and I was all wound up. And Casey was like, we left it. She was like, move on. We left it behind. It's over. It's like, she was just like, this is great. Congratulations to us. We did our thing. Now let's keep going. And I've always tried to keep that with me, the spirit of like, good for us, and let's keep moving forward.
Definitely.
And that support, I'm happy to say a lot of the acting community, the female acting community, Black actresses have been incredibly supportive along the way.
Oh yeah, definitely. I also want to give a big shout out to my mommy dears in the house. Way to go, Mom. A huge fan of Karyn Parsons.
Hi.
Gotta unmute.
Absolutely. Not great on Zoom, obviously. I forgot to unmute. I had a question, not about your past work. I know that you, your son and daughter did a project with your husband.
Yeah.
What is it? Sweet Thing?
That's correct. Yes, okay. Right.
I would like to know, how was it working as a family unit, a real family in this project?
Oh, thank you for asking. That film obviously is near and dear. The whole experience was, my husband is a filmmaker, a writer, director, filmmaker, and he's one of the people from the beginning of the independent film world. One of his first films, In the Soup, won the Sundance Audience Award ages ago, and he's been doing it for a long time. And he now teaches at NYU, and he's still making films. And he did Sweet Thing with my kids and myself, and it was great. You know, I was nervous working with. I've worked with him before, and you know, it's a little nerve-wracking working with your husband. But I have to say, I went into this really reluctantly. He made me do it. He wrote the part. He really wanted me to play it. I was writing a book. And so I was finishing that up when he insisted that I do it. And I was going to be done by the time we were shooting the film. So he kept saying, oh no, you only work a couple of days. Don't worry. You have to do this. You have to do this. So I had to do this. And and I didn't want any stress. So he was really good not to give me any, but also the way he put the film together, it was a real kind of like, let's put on a show. Let's all just get together. We didn't have a lot of the weight of distributors already attached to the film, and all sorts of things that, and financiers already attached, because we funded it through Kickstarter. And so without the weight of those things, people looking over your shoulder the whole time, there was a lot more freedom, and the results were fantastic. I mean, my Facebook came up with a memory from last year. This time we were in Berlin, and he received, I think it's called the Crystal Bear Award at the Berlin Film Festival. The film was making the rounds last year, right before the pandemic hit. And we were supposed to go to Tribeca and numerous other films, but we couldn't, everything got stopped. But like I said, the results of having that kind of freedom took the weight off of him. So my experience with him as a director was great. It was also good for my kids, and they got the most out of them. My daughter, both of them are such natural actors. I don't know if they'll do any, if they'll go forward with it. My son seems to have zero interest. He was just on the set. He'd always, he was so good. He'd hit his marks perfect, always knew his lines, always knew what was going on in the scene. But as soon as I said cut, he'd turn to his dad and say, I think you're really overworking me. I think I need to go. And then he goes, you're staying longer. Then they go, action, hit everything perfectly, cut. Dad, I really want to go. Can we go now? But he was very professional, while he was doing it. She was amazing. My daughter is such an incredible actress, and you really want to watch her when she's on. But it was a great experience. And like I said, the film turned out to be so good, and like a beautiful poem about a coming of age story. Really beautiful. I hope that everyone gets to see it. We're launching another Kickstarter to help us with the music aspect of it, because getting the clearances for the music has turned out to be a little expensive. And so we're trying to get some help with that so that we can have a release in the States and people can see the film. But it's called Sweet Thing. And thanks for asking. It was a really, it was a great experience and a beautiful film.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Page.
Hey, Stanley.
Hi,
Karyn.
Hi.
Thanks for having me a part of this. Definitely appreciate everything that you've done for our culture, and loved. I grew up a kid of the '90s. And loved Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I always ask folks, here in Chicago, we're known for our culinary scene. What's your favorite thing to do, or favorite restaurant in Chicago when you visit?
Last time I was there, I don't remember the name of the restaurant. This is terrible, but I was still eating meat. I don't eat meat now. But I found a picture of me in front of a steak that looked so good. I almost went back
we got a lot of
that. It was so good. You guys have, you also, Gigi Coleman, Bessie Coleman's grandniece, lives there. And I have become friends with her since writing we did a short animated film and then a book of Bessie Coleman's story, and she's Chicagoan, Miss Bessie.
Yeah, very familiar.
And Gigi, her grandniece, lives there in Chicago. So I think the last time I was there, we dined out, and she took me someplace. It was so good. But every time, the food is amazing in Chicago. That is the truth. Every time I go, I come back saying, wow, the food is so good. Now, I don't know what it's going to be like now. I'm vegetarian.
Yeah, there's a nice salad place in the West Loop called Sweet Greens. Check that out.
Oh, Sweet Greens. Okay. Well, salad sounds boring.
But that's like naturally. That was it.
Yeah, that was, I'm looking forward to that again.
Yeah, Chicago loves you, so we got something for you no matter what.
Thank you.
How speaking of, how can we help your crusade to bring the Bessie Coleman story to the big screen?
Oh, well, we've done the Bessie Coleman story as an animated film with Lawrence Fishburne as the narrator. We've created that, and we have that available on Canopy right now. Actually, yeah, I think it's available on Canopy, and we have it available on DVD through our website. You can purchase it, but we also have Flying Free: How Bessie Coleman's Dreams Took Flight, the book, the picture book, which is available everywhere. You can get that at Barnes and Noble, your local books, most local booksellers, Amazon. You know, you can get it just about everywhere. And I'm really proud of it. It's beautiful. It has the same beautiful visuals as the film. And we're working on whatever sorts of distribution aside from Canopy, because Canopy is really available for schools and educators. And we want to make sure that the kids could get the film. But in terms of getting a wider release, we're working on that right now. And we'll see what happens with that. But if anyone wants to help, because Sweet Blackberry, that produced it and produces all of these projects, is a nonprofit organization. So if anybody wants to help the organization, you can visit the website, sweetblackberry.org. And there are donate buttons. You can donate. But if you also have things that you think you could do that could help with, in any way, volunteering, and then getting the word out to people. It's always important, because as a nonprofit, that means a lot to us. If you know people that might want to donate time, anything.
Oh, absolutely. And your website and everything will be heavily saturated throughout our community, because we definitely want to support here in Chicago and represent.
Thank you.
What was it like to work alongside your former Fresh Prince of Bel-Air boss, Queen Latifah, as she narrated Garrett's Gift for you? That was one of my all-time favorite episodes.
I didn't say no. That was great having her. She did 2 episodes of Fresh Prince, once as my boss and once as Will's best friend. And Will is the one that brought her on board, that actually, because he said, Dana needs to do one of these. And I said, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe somebody can make that happen. And so he got in touch with her, and, she was really happy to do it. But when she showed up, she had come in on a red eye, and I didn't know she was coming in on a red eye. So she showed up to the studio. Oh, wow. With like she seemed like no energy, just like real quiet. And, I worked with her. I bumped into her on the street and sat, and we've talked forever, so I mean, it's like, not like I don't have a relationship with her, but she showed up very kind of really low. And then I found out she came in on a red eye. Oh, wow. And I thought, oh no, this is a children's project. She's just came in on a red eye. She's probably exhausted. How am I going to get her energy up? So she goes in the booth and she's looking over the papers and she's marking things, and I'm sweating thinking, how am I going to,
so it was like the episode all over again.
Yeah, a little.
Where you can do it.
Yeah. But what I forgot was, this is somebody who started as a voice artist. She came to us as a voice artist first, even before an actress, right? This is somebody who, when she goes in the booth, she knows what to do.
And I was blown away that her voice when she does opera too. I
haven't heard her.
Absolutely blown away. Yeah, because she came to Ravinia, I believe, a couple of years ago. Artist known as Dana Owens, and yes. She had a whole set that she did with Common. And yeah, she was doing opera, so she is so versatile.
Well, and she's got so much power, and she knew what she was doing. She was studying what she was. As soon as we hit action and she went, all the energy was there, and all the animation and all the life, everything came to life. And I thought, oh my goodness, now how am I going to bring her down a little bit? So I'm kidding. I didn't have to bring her down. She was perfect, but she was really such a trooper. I mean, I've been very, very fortunate to have such great talent come on board. Just like, what do you want to do? Let's do this. And and really believing in the project as they come to it. It's been really, really great.
Yeah. And tell us about the inspiration behind your first your first Sweet Blackberry book, The Journey of Henry Box Brown.
Yeah, and that was our first film when we started the organization. And that was the impetus for the whole thing, was that story. My mother was a librarian and my whole life. But then as an adult, when she was heading the Black Resource Center where she worked, she came across wonderful, incredible stories, just stories of people we do not hear about, incredible achievements, all sorts of stuff. And she would call me and share them with me. And she shared the story of Henry Box Brown with me. And I couldn't believe the story. I couldn't believe that this man had traveled in a box and literally mailed himself to freedom in a box, for people who are unfamiliar with the story. And then I couldn't believe I hadn't heard of it, that this really happened. And I tell my friends, and none of my friends had heard of it. And I thought, well, it's such an obvious story for kids. This should be a picture book for kids with a man in the box and all this mystery and danger, and then this triumph at the end, right? And it's real. And so that was, I know, but it took me a long time to get to finally doing it. And then eventually I sat down and tried to figure out a way to put it together. And it was, it was hard to write at first. When I sat down to put pen to paper and try to tell a story to young children about slavery, became a lot more daunting than I thought. I hadn't thought about that part. Like, how do you actually approach that with little kids? So I ended up bringing animals in and then making this journey something that they could follow and see eye to eye with and follow through. And that was a little bit more challenging than I anticipated, but it was really worthwhile for me. And I'm happy with how it all came together.
Oh yeah, definitely. Professor Franklin from William W. Carter School of Excellence has a critically acclaimed question ready to ask you.
Hi, thanks again for meeting with us. So my students are online, so I'm just sharing this screen. And I have a lot of them and myself as well. We are like writers, filmmakers, and what advice would you have for someone who is interested in getting in the industry that may not necessarily be acting?
Who's interested in getting like behind the scenes? Or
I have some students that are interested in writing for TV shows or writing their own stories.
Yeah.
Some gentlemen that are interested in like filmmaking, and just trying to figure out where to start on their path to creating greatness.
Well, there's so many resources now. Especially with everything online. I mean, it's amazing. You can go on, you can take so many classes. My daughter taught herself how to play all these instruments online by studying online. There's so much that you can learn that way. And I think in terms of writing, you can definitely take advantage of the internet and the information that's out there, but reading, and if it's television writing that you're interested in doing, or if it's film, script writing that you're interested in doing, there's the writing itself, but there's also getting your hands on material to understand format. And so I would say, and you can do that online. You can go and you can find scripts, you can find television shows. But I would definitely just say write and write and write and write and read and read and read and read and write and write and read, and not just limited to your medium, because it's about storytelling, right? So we all want to learn how to tell a good story. And while there might be certain formats for certain things, ultimately you want to get your audience, you want to tell your story. And so I would just say just to read a lot, try to get materials of whatever the kind of, not necessarily the genre, but yeah, it doesn't hurt to look at the genre you're working in. If it's mystery that you're interested in, read lots of mystery, see how it's done well, see when it doesn't work for you. Imitate things if you want. Just to get your skills working, imitate things and see what you learn from doing it. Don't think of it as that's the project you're going to finish necessarily, but maybe that's a way to learn how somebody does something. And eventually you'll start to find your own voice and all of that. But most importantly, just to keep doing it, to read and to write. And in terms of, you know, other things in filmmaking, I would say there are courses, and if you can get involved in any kind of workshops or classes, that's great. But also we have so much at our disposal now. We have these phones that have cameras on them, and you can start to look and see things. I mean, I think I was reading something recently about for a writer or for any artist, an artist is really somebody who's pointing at something. They're just pointing at something. So it might be something you see all the time, but it's their job to kind of point to it and make the audience see it, maybe for the first time, maybe from a different perspective, maybe just actually stop and really look at it. So whatever it is, if it's just a family and someone's, you know, pointing at it with their writing, they're showing it a little bit more clearly. If they're doing it with their painting, whatever it is, if it's their directing, whatever, they're drawing more attention to it. They're bringing people to it. And I think that that's important in whatever you're working in. Same with photography or a DP, is how you see, what you witness, what other people are just looking at all of it and not paying attention. But maybe if you see something and you can show it from an angle that tells a story better. But I would also look at the people that you admire, you know, if people behind the scenes, if there are shows that are directed or created by certain people that you respond to, or films, look at more of their work and then find out who they emulated or who they studied with, and look into those people, you know, as well. Go back and don't resist going way back to people who you might think, oh, I don't like those old black and white films, or I don't like whatever. There's far too much to learn from it to just push it off and dismiss it, you know? So it's really important, I think, to look back to people who just really great artists who even had limited means and what they were able to do. That helps you learn a lot as well. I know I'm saying so much. There's so many different aspects of behind the scenes to cover, but hopefully you got something out of that.
Who was your favorite actress growing up as a kid?
Well, you know, I declared at a very young age, I think I was like 6, that I was going to be an actress. So I started telling everybody, I'm going to be an actress. And so I had it in my head as a child. I wasn't thinking I'm going to be an adult actress. I was thinking I'm going to be an actress like tomorrow. I'm going to be an actress. So I was thinking more of a child actress, so that made me I watched a lot of old black and white films. I love Betty Davis. Betty Davis. But I had to see everything Jodie Foster was in. Because we're talking, here's another child actor. And so she's doing what I want to do. And I would have to watch everything. I have to see I saw Taxi Driver when I was way too young to be watching Taxi Driver, because I just had to see her. I had to see everything that she did. Because I think I just felt like I was following in her footsteps somehow.
Oh, wow. And did you have a favorite teacher growing up as a kid that helped motivate you?
I did. And I actually I communicated with her. She was my 6th grade teacher.
Oh, wow.
Mrs. Bone. She was Mrs. Sipperly, and then she got remarried. And she was during our class year with her, Mrs. Bone. And I think it was her 90th birthday.
Oh, wow.
And so we all sent her things for her birthday. And then she and I communicated a little bit afterward, because she was hugely influential to me.
I mean, man.
Huge. She had a piano in the class, and she would make us sing. I could never sing, but she made us sing, and she made us, she gave us all nicknames, and she saw you. She was one of those teachers who you always knew she saw you and who you were. She had a thing of cubbies for all of us with our nicknames on it. And sometimes you'd look in the cubby and she'd return homework there, or you'd have to hand in things there. Sometimes you'd look and there'd be nothing in any of the cubbies except yours. And it would be a note from her to you.
Oh, wow.
You know, telling you what a great job you were doing, or how so great that you did blah, 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 or I saw how you handled this, or you know, I saw this situation. I hope you don't fall into that with this person who's doing the, you know, it's just very personal. And yeah, and just to know that that person was looking out for you, but also knew you, saw you, I think meant everything to me as a kid. So she's somebody who I feel like I carry her around with me.
And teachers are truly the backbone. Like in my case, right, mommy dear, Mrs. Snyder, my kindergarten teacher.
Yes. And she would happen to be your brother's first grade teacher.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Mrs. Snyder. Yep,
yeah.
is our version of Mrs. Bone.
Yeah, I think you cannot underestimate what a teacher, a good, caring teacher can do for a child's self-esteem and their direction.
Mm-hmm. How should a high school student, like the students at Thornwood High School and all of our younger communities at William W. Carter School of Excellence, Betty Shabazz International Charter School, all of these schools are the melting pot of the performing arts community, who have suffered over the last 10 to 11 months with the COVID-19 pandemic of not having performing arts productions, stage plays, that sort of thing. What advice can you give a middle school or a high school student preparing for an audition and staying engaged, staying ready, prepared, you know, for once the time comes that we'll be able to get back and performing in person? What can we do in the interim? Yeah,
that's a good question, because it's so difficult. I would say, you know, depending on what it is you do, whatever, I don't know what the art is that the child that is doing, but if you are, I mean, it's so hard to not be able to interact with others, and makes it really challenging. But if you're an actor, for instance, I still think there's so much to be gained from observing other actors that you really admire. And I mean brave actors that are willing to be really honest and raw, because that's hard. And I think that whatever you can do, if you can practice, if you can work on plays, work on parts, work on getting to where you're really adept at memorizing lines and working on characters and fleshing characters out, and breaking down scenes, what's happening in a scene. I think these are all still things that you can do. I'm talking just about actors right now. But these are things that you can do even without interacting with people so much, that will help you. And you can read still. There are great books to read. I mean, I read Stanislavski and Uta Hagen and Sanford Meisner, and I got a lot out of these things. And so in between going to workshops and actually being with other students, so there's still a lot to be that you can gain from reading these things, from breaking down scenes, from getting your whatever skills you need. Like I said, even just the memorizing lines, getting into a habit of, because these are some things that aren't as fun, that you are going to have at your disposal. You are going to have to know how to do, you know, quickly and well, and get it out of your way, because you don't want to be thinking about lines. You want to be able to think about what you're doing.
Yep.
And but that's just acting. And then other things, if it's music, you know, obviously doing all your basics, and dance, same thing. There are basic things that, you know, there are not always the most fun things to be doing, but the real rudimentary things will serve you. You know, you need to do scales, and you need to, you know, all the basic stuff.
Especially, tell us about why you started Sweet Blackberry, the wonderful non-for-profit dedicated to bringing little known stories of African-American achievements to life. What was your inspiration?
Well, my mom told me the story of Henry Box Brown,